welcome to another episode of Israel Report. Unfortunately, Marco will not be with us this week, but I'm here, as well as Jacob Prash and Elon. Also, Sandy Simpson. Want to welcome each of you to the show tonight. Without further ado, Elon, what's going on in Israel?
Okay, let's start then. Well, first of all, some very brief items. This does not mean that these items are unimportant. It's just there was not a great deal of detail on them. Uh, Firstly, Iron Beam is finally here. Iron Beam, sorry, yeah, it's called Iron Beam. It's the laser defense system that Israel was developing in order to intercept missiles. It's now fully operational. Finally, it's fully operational. It's not out. It's out of the testing phase, and because it's already proved its worth in, of course, in the war with Iran. So that will be rolled out officially now. So. Let's wait. We can wait and see how that affects things. There have been some discussions over whether we should actually sell it to certain European countries or not. Um, that should prove interesting in the future. Also, today or late yesterday, there was an incident at the Allenby Bridge crossing. That's the one with Jordan, and it was a truck driver, actually, a Palestinian truck driver who was driving a rig with supposedly aid for Gaza. Anyway, while he was on the job, he shot and killed two Israelis. So they finished him off. They neutralized him. But Israel has an agreement with Jordan that where anything that's coming across the border, it is pre-screened to some extent on the Jordanian side, but because of this agreement, they don't always get quite as rigorously inspected. So this guy managed to hide some weapons in the cab and use them as soon as he got in range of some Israeli soldiers. So he shot one and stabbed another. Both were killed. So then they neutralized him. Um,
Hmm.
so that was um, quite prominent in the news. The other thing was Netanyahu was absolutely denouncing this. You've probably seen it, probably on Candace Owens, where she accuses Israel of being behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I mean, this is just absolutely awful slander. But uh, Netanyahu really stood up and said this is absolutely outrageous and completely insane, and he affirmed his friendship for Charlie. Um, but that's probably an item that will come up again, I imagine, later on in the program. Another thing was um, that the preacher at the Al-Aqsa Mosque was calling for takedown of the West, and the report runs as very shortly. It says thousands of Palestinian Muslims cheered after Al-Aqsa Mosque's preacher vowed to re-establish ISIS to force Islam and Sharia laws on the Christian world. Christian men will be forced to convert or be killed, while Christian women and children will be sold as slaves and raped to death, just like ISIS terrorists did with the Yazidi minorities in Iraq and Syria. So, on that cheerful note, there was a link also to a report that appeared in the UK, actually. I think this was in the Daily Express, and it was a rather disturbing headline. ISIS calls on UK Muslim youth to attack Christian gatherings in horror plot. A chilling message from ISIS has emerged, urging young Muslims to target Christians and Jewish gatherings. One excerpt from the long tract says, "Kill them wherever you are able to," adding the Muslim must set out to support his Muslim brothers in Palestine and elsewhere. That's a little bit disturbing.
Yes.
So those are the smaller items. One more thing. Israel's now been banned from the UK College of Defence Studies. Not that I don't think that actually makes a lot of difference to us, but it's symptomatic of a larger
Yes.
increasing isolation, which actually moves us on to some of the next things. there was a very interesting editorial in Israel Hayom just yesterday, I think. I'll just find it again. I've got some extracts. And this is about the Gaza assault because we went into Gaza on the 16th. This is the final phase of taking over the Gaza Strip and the Gaza City. And this report was, or this op-ed was entitled "The Last Campaign and Netanyahu Takes His Biggest Gamble Yet." And the way that this was in connection with the dilemma that we actually have here, because of the hostages and, of course, also the future of uh, of Gaza and also our own survival as a nation. Um, you know, Bibi is playing this. Well, he has to. He's trying to negotiate two very difficult choices. One is to surrender to international pressure and uh, arrange some kind of fudge of a ceasefire without getting all the hostages back and not getting the war goals that we spent so much of our manpower and obviously people's lives on achieving. And the other one is long-term survival and of the nation. I mean, if you have a fudge where things are not the war goals are not achieved, you leave Hamas able to come back again. They'll
That's
do the
correct.
same thing they did in 2005. So this is the nasty situation that Netanyahu was in, and so this is what the article is really about. And I'll just read a few extracts because it was very good. It said the goal of the war, Hamas's surrender, the return of the hostages, and long-term security. It says, despite President Trump's backing, the Prime Minister Bibi is deeply concerned about Israel's diplomatic isolation. His close associates say the latest gloom and doom speech was no slip of the tongue. Between diplomatic isolation and a final opportunity from the White House, Israel is seizing its last chance to shape a victorious end to the war in Gaza over Hamas. Now, the article goes on about some of the internal differences within the war cabinet, but it goes on to say that U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reaffirmed the administration's commitments to Jerusalem just at the start of the week, the return of all the hostages and a future for the Gaza Strip, and more importantly for Israel, without Hamas. Yet even while relying on Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu is deeply concerned and cannot hide it. He is worried about diplomatic isolation and Israel becoming ostracized among Western nations. While his senior ministers are confident that this is a linguistic slip of the tongue, he's talking about the doom and gloom speech that was earlier on. His close associates say it is a recognition of the forecast. The proof of this is that the conference at the Ministry of Finance was not the first time Netanyahu has spoken about Sparta. The previous evening, in a restricted security briefing with the security establishment's top leadership regarding the Gaza City campaign and its impact on the hostages, Netanyahu repeated the same chilling prediction to those present, word for word. He said, we must be prepared to be self-reliant. And he talked about the situation during the Biden administration where we were having problems getting any fresh munitions. And of course, because of that, Israel had expanded its production lines and begun working on producing its own ammunition on 24/7 basis now. So what is the source? Then it goes on to say the new chilling forecast. The threats heard from European nations, which, as Netanyahu aptly described them, are subject to blackmail from Muslim immigrants at home. These accelerated the realization that also held a significant place in the Nagel Committee's conclusions, a move towards independent security production so that in the next war we will not require approval for every shell our soldiers fire in the area. So so this is one of the things that you can see a diplomatic isolation or international isolation would be very hard for Israel economically, and of course that would affect tourism and many other things. So it's a we have to, he's trying to balance the costs of one against the other. Um, According to Netanyahu, there was an impact on the stock market and the market's of isolation, and a late clarification is better than a prolonged silence. Yet it is not possible to sugarcoat the coming political reality. The actions against us in the UN and the European Union could have crippling effects on Israel worldwide. This is the reason why the campaign for Gaza City is the great gamble that Netanyahu took on the continuation of the war in light of Hamas's foot-dragging and insolent demands. At this stage, he could have gone out and explained that the credit for continuing the war has run out and that the losses should be minimized. The hostages should be taken and Hamas's demands should be met. But from a future perspective, such a compromise, had he succumbed to it, would have been a cause for regret for generations. And this is the unfortunate cleft stick that we're stuck in. And there's no easy way out of it. And this is what Netanyahu is working around at the moment. So this is probably going to come up later on in the program, I think. So that's one major concern. The other thing is that was big in the news here is the relationship with Turkey. Again, this keeps coming back week after week. Um, that first of all, you may have seen that the one of the former Al Qaeda leaders is now, Jolani will be addressing the UN, and someone writes here that Jolani's new uh, political advisor in Syria, Muwafaq Ahmad Zaiden, had direct ties to Al Qaeda's leader Osama bin Laden. You know, sorry, yeah, sorry. Jolani, sorry, was former ISIS, or he still is, really, basically. But the fact that he's got this direct connection now with Osama bin Laden, this is very, very disturbing. His new advisor, um, has social media posts that reveal extreme anti-Semitism and open support for Hamas. You know, just hours after an explosive expose of this guy was published, apparently pro-jihadist hackers from Turkey, where Hamas is very strong again now, and took down the entire site. So there's something, and this writer reports that there is a new axis of evil taking shape before our eyes. Hamas's propaganda Hamas's propaganda arm in Qatar, Al Qaeda's Syrian state, and Erdogan's terror dictatorship in Turkey. This is a wake-up call for every Western leader who still believes one can trust the business-suited jihadists in Ankara, Doha, or Damascus. Yeah, that's one aspect of the Turkey thing. The other one is that Israel has been making it very clear now that if you harbor terrorists that work against that commit atrocities against us, even if you hide in somewhere, well, of course, Qatar, don't think yourself safe if you harbor these people. This is what, so it may well be there's a possibility in the future that we could even end up attacking Turkey, because though Bibi warned the American administration that they were going to attack Qatar and wipe out the Hamas people. This does not necessarily mean that Israel will seek approval every time it does something. This reporter speaks about something called the Begin doctrine of Menachem Begin. He insisted that even if we consult our allies, ultimately strategic autonomy in a partnership, we had to have our own autonomy. We had the freedom to act alone if necessary. This, of course, applied to things like when we blew up the reactor in Iraq in '81, and of course our war with Iran this year. We have to maintain our own strategic autonomy. And of course, Turkey, of course, has its own nuclear project, and of course, all of this stuff that they're building up in infrastructure, military stuff in Cyprus.
No
All of
worries.
this
If you have any
is
other
is is,
questions
is
or anything else
collectively
you're curious about,
um,
let me know.
coming, raising the alert level. And because Turkey, of course, if you think about Cyprus and their bases there and all these anti-ship missiles and different rockets they're building up, that's a threat to Israeli shipping lanes and anything coming across the Med. That's a very dangerous threat, actually. And it may become a point when Israel actually has to do something.
Elon, if I may
So
ask
that's
a quick
yeah, go on.
question. So we know that Turkey is a NATO member. This is
Yeah,
very
that's yes.
problematic that they have such uh ties to very, very questionable people, especially ones with direct links to Osama bin Laden. That, that,
Yes.
that what
Oh
does
yeah.
this mean if Israel were to say preemptively attack some target in Turkey? That we're right back to NATO member being attacked. All NATO members must come and defend him.
Yes. That's of course if NATO doesn't collapse. Um, you know, look, this is all heading towards some critical mass, isn't it? I mean, I just don't know. I mean, it all depends, I think, on what state Europe's in the next decade, I think, because it could be that Europe becomes Islamified. I don't like the thought at all. That's a horrifying thought. But I think if that happened anyway, I think America would step out away from NATO completely. Um, but there is a, of course, which is interesting. Actually, it's very interesting that you said this, Jay, as well, because there is something else going on. And this is, I think I sent you the link to this some days ago, and this is Egypt's plans to establish a NATO-style joint Arab force to
You did
defend
send that to
any
me.
Arab nation under attack. This is exactly what Hamas expected would happen on October the 7th, 2023. But it's, so this is another disturbing, you know, another disturbing development if this comes to pass. I mean, I don't know. But the thought of Islamic terrorists having this, being able to freely attack Israel, knowing that the entire Arab world will militarily stand by them and support them when we defend ourselves, is kind of disturbing. And so
I mean,
there's a whole
why call it an Arab NATO or a Muslim NATO? Just call it a caliphate.
well,
Call it
maybe
the
yes,
Ummah.
yeah. But that's so these are kind of worrying developments. And the last thing was main thing was just something about it was an interesting support report on the issues to do with Judea and Samaria. And this writer wrote that uh, he said, if you are Jewish Zionist or have any concern for Israel's future, I need you to listen to me and listen carefully. We are entering the most critical phase of the war this very week. One, in response to the Saudi-French initiative to unilaterally recognize Palestine, Israel is planning to assert control over parts of Judea and Samaria. Secretary Rubio is in Israel now, and this is a central focus of his discussions that the Saudis, the Emiratis, and the entire Gulf are mobilizing with two clear aims: that they want to prevent Israel from taking this necessary step, and B, they want to enact a set of measures presented as punishment for Israel's strike in Doha. Their object is to deal a blow to Israel and claim a victory. They seek to punish us and secure a major diplomatic win by strong arming Israel into accepting Western recognition of Palestine. They are betting that Israel will simply take it on the chin and look the other way, attempting to blackmail us with the threat of collapsing or suspending Arab peace treaties. And of course, some of this is behind Bibi's recent um, uh, uh, declarations that absolutely not, we will not have a Palestinian state. End of story. It's not going to be one. And yeah, Israel can't give in on this at all. It would be insane to do that. So this is another pressure on our prime minister too. So everything's heating up. It's getting like a pressure cooker. I mean, something's going to happen soon, isn't it? You can see it, all of this
It
stuff.
it does seem so.
So that's really about the end of the juicy bits, really, uh, for for this week. And there's plenty to talk about just there.
Yes, absolutely. Uh, I would like to ask a question. Considering, with the way France, the way that Germany is heading, the technology of the iron laser, is it the iron laser?
Iron
Why
Dome.
would
Sorry, no,
iron
well, no, wait a minute. Iron Beam, sorry.
iron beam,
Yeah.
yeah. Why would why would Israel even consider exporting that technology to people who are obviously not friendly to their state, their country?
Yes. Yeah. This is a question that's being asked. Do we actually want to sell this to people that may become an Islamic Republic in the near future? No, thank you. Um,
Exactly. You're exporting your technology to people who will potentially be your enemies.
yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, much of Europe is already becoming Islamic. It's
Yes.
very clear. England is almost there. I mean, UK, some of these other countries, Germany, France, they've been taken over. And
Yeah.
so I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that that's what's going to happen. And so Israel is going to end up isolated because they're the only ones who actually have a correct perspective on the whole situation. And hopefully the US is going to support them, continue because we have our own problems with, you know,
Yes.
Islam trying to, trying to dominate. So,
I think to what you're
Sorry, Ken.
saying,
Yeah,
Sandy, I wanted to just chime in real quick. The European nations, as far as non-Islamic reproduction, that's way below what you need for sustainable rates. While it's
yes.
funny because Israel, I believe it has higher birth rates of Israelis than just about every European nation as far as reproduction rate.
Yes.
So for the foreseeable future, Israel will be a nation, while as for the foreseeable future, uh, places like in Europe, like Italy, France, Germany, they will no longer be those that ethnic culture is dying, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
yeah, and the same thing's happening in the US too. US's
Same thing is happening in
birth
the
rates are
US.
way down. I think especially because of all this trans and LGBTQ stuff going on. And, frankly, it's always been a hope and plan of the globalists anyway. They want to reduce the population. But
Yeah.
it's causing major problems. And we got a whole generation of these kids, these Gen Z people who don't even want to have kids. Or if they have one, they
Yes.
might have one. Used to be you had at least two or three. Back in my day, it was like 7, 8, 10. So it's
I,
radically changed.
it really makes you wonder what is actually going to happen to Western civilization. I mean, look, apart from the Islamic factor, I mean, if the people aren't there to maintain things, I mean, on the whole, the Islamic world isn't bothered about maintaining anything. It just hires experts in from the West. Well, when all the Western experts have all died out, what kind of world's going to be left? Everything will fall apart. Culturally, systemic, the systems, transportation, everything. It'll just collapse.
And one of the big battle cries of the younger generation, Gen Z in particular, is that they're waiting for our generation to die, literally, because in fact, I've had people tell me that when you guys finally are gone, then we can finally, fix things the way they ought to be. And these are people who are completely ignorant of history,
Yes.
usually amoral. So it's scary because we see the world of the tribulation coming on strong.
We do. That's a very
Good.
valid point, and I think we see that in Israel. We see the way that like you said, the political and diplomatic isolation of Israel is very apparent. It's pushing
Yes.
very forward to that reality. And what does that mean? Israel's finally coming to the conclusion we need to make sure that we make our own arms. We need to make sure that we make our own ammunition. That's a country that knows the writing on the wall,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
anti-Semitism is here to stay.
You know, if all the infrastructure collapses and transport systems, rail system, communications go in the West, it'll be like Lord of the Flies. You know, it'll be
Mm,
might just takes what it wants, and roving bands of robbers just or
Yeah.
Mad Max or something like that. Really, literally, you know, it could absolutely turn into
Well,
something horrible like that.
if the liberals, the Democrats have their way, that's exactly what's going to happen. Because right now their whole focus is on supporting criminals and illegal
Yeah.
aliens and all this kind of stuff. They don't support the police. They're out there demonstrating against the police and trying to, you know, harm them and stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You know,
Yes, it is.
it's just craziness, is what it is.
It really makes you fear for, you know, what's going to happen. Um, People haven't experienced this kind of thing for well, more than well, even maybe thousands of years actually. Barbarism and just
Yeah,
complete lawlessness.
yeah.
And it's really heading in that direction. Oh,
well,
that's all.
the children that are
Well,
going to take over will definitely have that world, considering what they believe. There is no
yeah,
belief, and nature abhors a vacuum. So what are they going to replace it with? Well, it's logical that the strong eat the weak.
mm,
That's exactly the world they want.
Because they've never lived in a place where they've had to actually experience that. If they had to
I
live in
wonder
the
if
old
they
Soviet
actually.
Union, they would have gotten a clue.
I wonder if, you know, when you think about it, people have never, even of our generation, I don't think many people have ever really experienced what it's like to live in uh, something that's like worse than the third world.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it could turn into. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know, where you can't get your latte every day,
Oh no.
and no fast
Hey,
food
no,
joints.
wait. Let's not take away my latte quite yet. Okay. These are things that I need.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so
Um,
much for the Israel update. It's been great catching up with you, Elon,
yes.
and we look forward to the update next week. Thank you so much.